From the very beginning of JFrog, we've been part of the community.
I'm really excited to be part of the Go Center team. And what motivates us is that we are helping the Golang community by guaranteeing reproducible builds.
JFrog becomes with Conan part of an amazing community, from our Beancrafters friends to companies like Mercedes or Bloomberg. This community is defining how modern DevOps are done for C++.
Thanks, Bintray, for helping Termux distribute packages to over 5 million users across the world.
Thanks very much, JFrog, for contributing to the Adopt OpenJDK project. We seriously wouldn't be able to work without the kind and generous donations from companies like yourselves.
We are a huge fan of the Artifact as a Service. We have a couple of projects that have been using it for quite a while to distribute artifacts and integrate it into the release management process. We're happy to be of service to our projects and thank their usage of Artifact. So thank you very much.
You know him as the man wearing a top hat. DevOps friends, please give a hats-off welcome to your community champion and JFrog Head of Developer Relations, Baruch Setagursky.
Now I'm going to shout and it'll be really loud. Too loud, yeah, too loud. And you saw some of the JFrog people that work for the community in our community development group, and you saw the users that use Artifactory and Binder and other services, Go Center, that we provide for the community. And today I wanted to invite some of the community people to speak about how the community actually works. I would like to start with one of the communities which we feel the most connected, and that's the community of C++ developers that use Conan as their build tool and dependency manager. And it's hard. C++ is hard. I looked at it in college and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. But some people actually do it, and heads off. I have a head. And that's amazing. And building packages in C++ is particularly hard because of platform dependencies. You need to produce 40 different flavors of the same binary for different platforms for it to be useful in the real world, because different people use different platforms. And if there is one group that took it to an industrial mass production, those are the Beancrafters. Beancrafters is a community of people who are passionate about creating binaries for C++ and publishing them in Conan Center for Conan users. And I want to invite a co-founder of Beancrafters, Jerry, to join me here on stage. Jerry is coming any minute now. It's like the microphone. Oh, here he is. Warm welcome for Jerry. Thank you. And going from native to cloud native, I have a wonderful advocate for cloud native, for Kubernetes, for Helm. She's doing it she's in the IT ops and DevOps for the most of her life, and when she does demos, not only she has a backup, she actually has another laptop with her, and this laptop has to be of a different manufacturer and on a different operating system because redundancy. And this is how she does everything. She's amazing. Jessica Dean, CNCF ambassador and Azure Cloud Advocate. Oh, this. Okay, just kidding. Here we go. And speaking about cloud native, the language of the cloud native is obviously Go. And Go's been around for 10 years now, but they only got to the problem of dependency management and package management recently with Go modules. And one individual in particular took it kind of from a hobby or an interest and converted his educational resource, Go in 5 minutes. If you didn't do it, you really should go and check it out, to a project, to a community open source project that helps the community build with Go modules. And I'm talking about Aaron Schlesinger, project lead of Project Athens. Aaron? There he goes. Thank you for being here. Speaking about huge open source projects, I think one of the most famous producer of those projects is Netflix, Netflix OSS. We all know and love, and some of us use technology contributed to open source by Netflix. And one of the biggest projects that recently not only was contributed to open source, but was actually donated to a foundation, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. From Netflix is Spinnaker, obviously, and who else can better speak about Spinnaker and its community than the director of delivery in Netflix, Andy Glover. Thank you for being here. And the good news is that I have smarter people to speak with them than myself. And I want to introduce a person that I worked with for 18 years. He interviewed me for one of my first jobs in IT. I still have no idea why he hired me, and he refused to tell. My dear friend, my colleague, my boss in a way, co-founder of JFrog, Fred Simon. So with that, is it right? This is how we sit. It worked. Wow. All right, so I wanted to ask all of you, wonderful people, the first question is, we talk about communities, but it's such an overloaded term. Everybody thinks differently of the community. I mean, my HOA claims they are a community. I'm not sure about that. What is community for you? What defines a community? And we can go by random order or so. Whoever wants to start.
For BinCrafters, community was about bringing together developers who had basically existed in a more or less legacy ecosystem and applying modern patterns to a really old set of C and C++ libraries. And that involved finding people who were from diverse backgrounds with diverse skill sets and a diverse perspective on the problem, and solving the problems in a way that worked for all of us. So I think that's the essence of community in a software context, more or less. So that's what it meant for us.
I think community from, sorry, oh, there we go. Hi. Microphone problems, yay. Where's redundancy? We need redundancy. I guess you have. So I guess community for us, both from a CNCF perspective, and that's Cloud Native, Cloud Foundation, and even from an Azure perspective, is truly everyone in this room and everyone that's using these technologies. And so I think community really means authenticity and really engaging with the members of those communities and building trust. So I think we really, in CNCF and beyond, really focus on that relationship, that rapport, that trust, and that authenticity. And if we do that, when it comes to technologies and considering with meeting the community where they are and going out into the trenches, participating, that's really been one of the big lessons we've learned when it comes to true building of community.
I think sort of on the same token as what Jessica said, community to me is about passion. So it's about getting a group of people together, welcoming new folks in if they're interested, and having everyone be together with a passion to cut to the core of what a problem is, and really going out and fixing what needs to be fixed without going, ahead and doing the next thing until you fix that first thing.
Yeah, I agree with everything everyone has said here regarding community, and I'll add that I think from a Netflix standpoint, community is a source of innovation and validation. So if you can build a vibrant community, you are obviously getting some validation that the thing that the community is built around is solving some meaningful problem, and then you can reap innovations from that. Not just the community, but everyone on the periphery of that community too gets to reap those innovations.
So you have a mic?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, so it's really really true that once you bring other people and other environment around a common problem, you bring yourself out of the box and you start. So innovation, patience, authenticity, and kind of finding a common ground together to build something. And And it's true, a lot of time, if you don't interact with the community and if you stay in your own bubble and circle around, you just start to provide services that people don't like to use and don't like to interact with. So, and that's, for us at JFrog, the concept of community is really this interaction and this feedback from what we create and getting inside the system.
Yeah, so it's about people getting together and helping each other, and not someone from outside that I'm here from the government, I'm here to help. That's not a community. Sorry, Fred. Yeah, this mic doesn't work. Next question that I wanted to ask you is, every community has its own path, right, to where it is now. And it's fascinating to hear how diverse the roads of the community that leads them to where they are. So if you don't mind, share with us a little bit of milestones or like events that shaped your community.
So in the community, in the Go community, there were kind of two big ones that stand out to me. The first one was, so Go started without any support for dependency management, which is very interesting to me, at least. So the first big milestone was the Go team added support for vendoring in your dependencies. So you would literally copy all your dependencies in and check them in with your project. You'd have a 250 megabyte folder in there. So that opened up a lot of innovation for tools to come out and manage that folder. And then the second big innovation that we saw was the introduction of this new official dependency management system called modules. And modules was fairly recent, and it enabled this huge, I would call it a Cambrian explosion of tooling around modules, one of which was Go Center, and another one of which is the Athens project as well.
Voila. About this, the ability to share and exchange module and packages, I imagine is so the Athens communities is there to build and secure, but the growth of the community by actually sharing actual runnable piece of software and things like that for us is very important, and you saw it in the Go module and trying to push the adoption of Go module?
Yeah, absolutely. And we really take advantage of these open APIs that the Go Center also does to interact and exchange those modules at a technical level. And that the community kind of follows those open APIs as well.
I think from Azure's perspective, and then again with CNCF, the biggest thing that we did was we truly actually started getting involved with community. So, I mean, the elephant in the room, working with Azure and Microsoft, how many people remember when Microsoft was not inclusive, like not inclusive whatsoever, didn't want to use anything, not allowed with a Mac, not allowed with a Linux system.
Is cancer.
Linux is a cancer. Oh, absolutely. I actually throw that in every one of my slides when I talk about it. But then, again, in the past 5 years, now we have major projects like VS Code. We have our Docs project, which is the fastest growing open source project on GitHub. There's a lot of things that we started doing. But the core of that is we started engaging with the community. We started participating with projects like Kubernetes and Helm. And actually my involvement outside of any kind of employment with those projects is what led me to becoming part of CNCF and an ambassador there, to the point to where I'm now in the trenches with people who are working with Helm. Helm 3 is a really great example of that. Helm 3 introduces a lot of, I want to say new features, but actually the removal of a really painful part being tiller. And that entire decision-making around that came from listening to every single person that uses that tool set. And on top of that, we have these, again, major technologies that members of the community are also contributing. You don't have to be an employee of any particular company. We all want to come together and build something useful, but then taking in that same liquid software and DevOps mindset, we want to build something that delivers value. And we're valuable and more powerful when we work together.
Oh yeah, BinCrafters had a few milestones over the past 2 years. The first one was when JFrog acquired the Conan project officially. That gave us the confidence to know that Conan would be funded, governed, and sustained long term. And without that, I don't think I would have felt comfortable reaching out to the other founders and suggesting that we embark on this long-term, very difficult mission of packaging, this huge group of C and C++ libraries. The second milestone, I think, was the biggest was when Conan released the 1.0 version and came out of beta. That took place about a year after the acquisition, maybe a little longer. But at that time, it was a reaffirmation that Conan and the JFrog teams were working together effectively. They were still on the right track. The relationship was effective and successful, and it enabled us to go forward with confidence and invite a lot more people in to say, yeah, you know what, this community is continuing to grow, and we've got these milestones to show. So that we had some good ones.
Yeah, no, that's quite an important point. Is once you have a community that is actually growing and people depend on what you're creating, the sense of responsibility, you say, okay, I'm going to do the 1.0. Until now, I was doing 0.8 and I was having fun. Now there are people that rely on me, and it's true that if you don't have strong backing in the back, you really jump into a difficult zone. So yeah, I'm really happy with supporting and all the projects here are well supported, and so you can trust them.
And this. Okay, and this is interesting because Jerry was talking about how having a company that believes in community and open source values provides confidence in the project, but we have a completely different path for Spinnaker, for example, which was actually taken out of such a company, and that suddenly gives it a future, and it is a milestone in the community, isn't it? No, Mike.
No, that's okay.
It's going to work. I'm sure it'll work.
It will work. It just has to.
Failover live on stage.
I agree, yes. I think the other thing that helps from a milestone standpoint is to be the first in market. So when Spinnaker came out as an open source continuous delivery platform, there really wasn't anything else out there viable. And of course, there's Jenkins, but Jenkins does a whole lot of other things. This was solely focused on that, so that's one thing. Be first in market. Second, have the backing of large companies, or at least companies with some goodwill behind them. Netflix, Google, Target, Capital One, the list goes on. And then to your point, I think the other milestone is then realizing that in order for the community to continue to grow and reduce risk that some in the community see as a project kind of centered around a corporation, is put it into a neutral foundation. So when with the CNCF, or excuse me, off the CNCF is the CDF, which is all part of the Linux Foundation.
It stands for
Continuous Delivery Foundation. So it's a sibling of the CNCF. Again, all hanging off the Linux Foundation. That's a neutral foundation for Spinnaker, Jenkins, and a new project called Tecton. And I think that's a huge milestone from the standpoint, again, of a community seeing, okay, the risk associated with participating in this community is reduced, because there's these fears, again, if this project is in the confines of a corporation, that corporation may decide to close source it, license it differently, or just abandon it. So it's a major milestone to move it into a foundation.
It works magically. Yeah, and I think the last question, we want to be on time, as opposite to some other. No, we won't do it again. So the last question is kind of a forward-looking. It's into the future. So you all know the dynamics in your communities and how it works. And I wonder what's next. Let's say like in a year, where do you see your community for example, a liquid software vision or something like continuous updates, is it something that can help your communities moving forward?
So I'll go first, but again, with everything that I touched with Azure, and that includes DevOps software and Kubernetes. I work a lot in open source technologies, so I focus very heavily on things like Kubernetes and Helm. I see us really growing in pardon the pun, but I guess horizontally scaling out, vertically scaling up. Really trying to, again, be more inclusive and meet every person where they are. An example of that is Kubernetes 1.14 finally introduced support for Windows containers. So no longer excluding the Windows workloads, which is fantastic, and then having even more power with that. But even within Kubernetes and Helm charts and Chart Museum, we have to have liquid software for that kind of delivery. To sustain that kind of growth and that kind of adoption, I mean, that product has only been around for 5 years. And we have major companies, major infrastructure using it around the globe. So there's no way we can achieve that without liquid software and continuous delivery and DevOps practices.
I agree.
Yay!
We're in. Sold.
Yeah, I think from a Spinnaker standpoint and the whole kind of, let's say, community around continuous delivery is very complementary to this idea of liquid software. And I think in order to get there, what we see is the commoditization of pipeline stages and triggers. Just make that really easy for any corporation to adopt, and then focus on the higher level aspects. And one big piece of continuous delivery and liquid software is this notion of confidence, validation testing. How do if I want to update my software all the time, I have to have, like, obviously a high degree of confidence that it's not going to break. And so there's a lot of tooling and infrastructure that you can build in there to give teams that confidence. And so, again, commoditize the lower layers, focus on the top level, kind of high level aspects where value can be attained.
Yeah, so Athens, the project, and Ghost Center, and the similar tools out there, those are tools that you use before you get to CI/CD and of course, before you get to production. So the place that Athens really fits in is trust. So Athens allows you to host your own artifacts for Go dependencies and to get the checksums for those things and to make sure you're building with dependencies that you trust and that you control. And that's a massive part, in my mind, to liquid software. Because with this whole concept of liquid software, you need to be deploying as fast as possible. And as was said earlier, I believe, in sort of a stream of software updates that your users may not be able to even control. So you really have to have this massively high degree of trust in the code that you're building and you're releasing. And that extends all the way down to your dependencies. And Athens really lets you have that trust in those dependencies that you're managing and you're building with.
Yeah, I think it's similar for C and C++ with Conan as well and the bin crafters community. I think a lot of the use cases of liquid software revolve around currently the IoT and the automotive industries. And there's big enterprises there who have to invest time to streamline their pipelines, their delivery and their deployment pipelines and their build pipelines. And a lot of them are already using Conan. The automotive sector and the IoT sector are a big part of the people who use the bin crafters packages. They come talk to us a lot. So as they further optimize their pipelines, I think they're going to be in communication with the Conan teams and the JFrog teams very heavily. And that's going to inform and evolve the way Conan platform is designed and improve automation. And that's evolution of Conan in that way is evolution for bin crafters as well. So really interested to see these companies actually realize the vision of liquid software on Artifactory and with Conan because we know that that'll feed back into our community in technical innovation and things like that.
And by complete coincidence, next keynote will be about IoT and automation. And I heard a rumor that Kid is going to update a real car here on stage during his demo. That's what I've been told. We'll see how he will manage.
Cool. I'm the driver?
No pressure. I mean,
okay. He got learned. But yeah, no, that's for all this community exchange and exchange of software from the developer all the way to continuous delivery and actual runtime. You need to trust the pipe. You need to make sure the pipe are clean. You need to be able to, so for us, the growth is how can we provide also visibility? I mean, at the end of the day, trust comes with transparency. You will need to be able to have visibility and transparency on an amount of software flow that is humanly impossible to watch and to control. So it will need to be automated transparency and kind of automated visibility. And we are really, really happy to scale basically with the communities and hopefully we will get better at it, all of us. Yeah. And really happy to be there. Thank you.
So with that, I would like to thank those amazing panelists and really community leaders, and wish you best of luck with your communities and outside of your communities, and working together with us and with everybody. Thank you very much. And on a personal note, what I started, but I had to shout. Now I have a microphone. So I'm as a developer advocate, my job is about community. My job is working with those amazing people and try to do my best to represent JFrog and bring what we believe inside the company to the outside world, and working with the community to make a world a better place and making liquid software the reality. So. Let's do it. Thank you very much.